What motivated you to get involved in something like this?
So I was struggling for a long time. In peer support, as a peer worker, you do come with lived experience. So I have various different things that kind of helped me find peer support. For me, I've been in therapy since I was 13 years old, and it took me until I was about 20 to find peer support. And through peer support, I had one of the most influential individuals help me through my journey, and that really stuck with me, and it kind of motivated me to get into peer support myself because there was something about them identifying with lived experience and being able to kind of be vulnerable with me along my own journey. It really opened up a lot of doors for me, and there was very few people along my way that were able to to truly empower me and kind of mirror my strengths and everything back to me. And my peer support worker ultimately was one of the most influential people. So it really did kind of motivate me to want to give back and do the same for others. So that's kind of how I found my way to MDAO. I'm Emily, and I'm a facilitator for the peer support training at MDAO.
You know, thinking about the program and the training, what has been most valuable to you?
There's a number of things that have been incredibly valuable from the training, but I'd have to say that the one I always feel most strongly about is boundaries. So we have a full section, or a really large section, on boundaries because of how important it is. And it's so, for me at least, it's so important for me to keep revisiting my boundaries with others, and also just recognizing that the boundaries are there for not only us, but the other person involved. And in peer support, it's all about being safe for both parties, because it is such a vulnerable space. It's so important for both people or the group, everyone, to feel safe. So I think that kind of tapping into that and figuring out what my needs are, as well as what someone that's coming to me what their needs might be, is super important in making for a valuable and functional relationship.
The job shadowing process, what is that?
So, so for me, I shadowed a group, a drop-in group, and I also shadowed the peer level 1 training. And for that, I kind of just sat in at first, but there were times where I would kind of dip my toes in and try a few different activities with the group. But it was really, it was definitely super helpful for me, because I got to see two co-facilitators kind of work together, and how their different styles kind of really complemented each other. It was really nice to kind of be able to sit back and have that time to watch how the program works, and watch how it is received on the other end as well. I was a participant in the group at one point too, so it's kind of similar to that, but a little bit different, because you get a bit of a chance to dip your toes in and kind of help out. And it was nice because it was a very much a linear process as to how much work you'd be putting in. And it was nice to be able to observe and learn different tools. I really appreciated the aspect of co-facilitation through shadowing, for sure.
Have you been able to put into practice some of the things you learned in training?
I most definitely have. In my everyday life, it constantly comes up. I think that it's really made me a lot more mindful when I'm interacting with anyone. I think that active listening is such a big part of peer support as well, and in my everyday life, it's definitely translated. It's super important for me to kind of be aware of what my biases might be going into a conversation if I already know that I'm going to be having a difficult conversation or just a conversation where I think that my bias might have an impact on that. And so just the general awareness that the training does for you really makes you more mindful in every aspect of your life. It's definitely strengthened my relationships as well, because I am so much more aware of my boundaries, my needs. I think that the self-awareness piece really helps you to be able to actually help others, and also just kind of, it's just a helpful tool to kind of get through every day.
Isn't it interesting that you go through this training because you want to help mentor someone else, and it ends up being so beneficial for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that the training is great. Even if you're not training to be a peer support worker, I think that it's a super valuable course nonetheless. You don't just have to be training to be a peer worker to get all of the benefits that the training does have. I think that with the communication skills, it definitely has made me more curious in my conversations. It kind of helps me to know what questions I might want to ask, and really be mindful of why I'm asking those questions and what the benefit of it is. Also really highlights that you want, if anything else, if you can't relate to exactly what someone is saying, and in many cases you won't be able to relate because no one person goes through the same exact thing. But what we're really trying to do is relate to the feelings that the person is bringing up, and that can help you be so much more empathetic. And that's really the goal, is to kind of strive for empathy and yeah, be there for that person.
Right. It's got to make you kind of excited to think that, though, that with this training now, you really can change people's lives. Do you think about that, or?
I do. I know for me, that I said earlier, it was a peer worker that really, really motivated me in my darkest times, and I have since found other areas and other aspects that have been super helpful, but that peer was ultimately what kind of drove that for me. So it is really, it's a funny thing to think about, but I definitely, that's what I want to strive for. I want to help people like that peer helped me. And I've had multiple peers, but there was one standout that really, he just empowered me so much, and I really appreciate it.
So that's interesting. So you've had multiple peers. What was it about him that made him so effective in your situation?
Well, first of all, my lived experience was really similar to some of the things that he also went through. But so it was nice to be able to identify with that. And just in general, the vulnerability that he showed, and just the care that he showed was something I never experienced before. And the way he asked me questions and kind of explored through conversation really was able to kind of highlight my different strengths and things that I could really lean on when I'm struggling, and things that could propel me forward. And he just really highlighted a bunch of things that were going on, and brought a lot of awareness to my situation so that I could kind of take from that and move forward. In the training, it really stresses that self-care is a huge aspect to peer support, and not just because, and it's not selfish. It's about taking care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, then you really can't help other people. So for me, it really highlighted how much work you have to put in, not just in peer work itself, but in yourself. You really have to kind of explore yourself and connect with yourself consistently, because if you kind of lose that connection with yourself, then it's hard to really connect with others. So it's definitely made me more aware of what goes on inside of me, and it helps me to kind of take those steps. Like for me, fitness, like running in general, kind of really helps me, but yoga also kind of helps me be more mindful. So it's about kind of finding the things that work for you, that will ground you and make you better prepared to be able to support someone else.
Would you recommend this to someone else who has struggled?
I most definitely would. Like I said before, I really think that the program's so valuable, even if you're not specifically training to become a peer worker. It's really about self-discovery and getting to know yourself better, and that connection with yourself is like, everyone needs that connection to themselves. And I think that regardless of what you want to do moving forward, it will benefit you. Even if you go into it kind of with resistance and have no clue what you're getting into, or just don't really have a desire to, if you don't know what you're going into it for, I think regardless of that, I think you will definitely benefit from it, and it will show in your everyday life.
If you could isolate one thing that's made the greatest impact on you, what would that be?
I really think that there's a video that we show about the difference between empathy and sympathy, and it's an exaggerated video to kind of get the point across. But for me, that really struck me, because I think that oftentimes, at least in my experience, not because I want to, but just because it's the first thing that pops in your head, is kind of a sympathetic response. It's just about feeling those feelings with them, as opposed to kind of saying sorry but shrugging it off. People might be coming to you with different experiences that you haven't actually been through, but it's about the feelings that they're bringing within that, and they might not even be aware of the feelings that they're kind of experiencing through that, but that's something that you can really identify with if you are aware. And this program is all about bringing awareness to yourself, and kind of awareness to how best to communicate with people to get the best results.